I will assume that you all can see my slides. Kyle, can you come off mute and let me know you can see my slides perfectly? I take that as a yes.
Yep, you're good. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Okay, welcome to the BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva Electrification and Make Ready Enablement Incentive presentation / training session. Okay. And my name is Patrice Lee. For those of you who don't know me, but most of you should already know me, my name is Patrice Lee. I am your account manager, and I will be walking you through the program overview and some other exciting information. So our agenda for today, we're going to do an electrification. I'm asking if you please would go on mute. I don't know if you know that you're not on mute, but please go on mute. And once we have completed the presentation, you can come off mute and ask your questions, or if you have questions, drop them in the chat along the way. Okay, let's get back to the agenda. Today's agenda, we're going to do electrification program overview. We're going to walk through some available incentives for the program and your contractor bonus. We're going to walk through some common electrification scenarios. We're going to walk you through that online intake form. If you have been submitting the standard rebate program incentive applications, then you should be quite familiar with this form and this portal. And we're also going to walk you through the other part of the electrification email process. We're going to walk you through some frequently asked questions. Of course, these are not all of the questions. These are just some sample of the frequently asked questions that we've received. And then at the very end, we're going to open it up for questions and discussion. So let's walk through the electrification, make ready enablement incentives, and your contractor bonus. So here's a program overview. BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva are offering electrification and make ready enablement incentives for customers. Customers are eligible for the electrification rebate when they are replacing their fossil fuel heating equipment. That could be oil, gas, or propane, and when they're replacing it with electric equipment as the primary heating source. Again, they are eligible when they are replacing fossil fuel heating equipment, which is oil, gas, or propane, with electric equipment as the primary heating source. The projects must be installed on or after April 1st, 2025 to qualify. You must be a residential customer of BGE, Pepco, or Delmarva, and those customers must reside in the state of Maryland. Again, the customers must reside in the state of Maryland. All minimum equipment requirements are the same across the standard and the electrification process. So again, as I alluded to earlier, if you're familiar with the standard process and the equipment requirements, they're the same, okay? Equipment is eligible for either the standard program incentive or the electrification incentive, not both. Meaning, if you're installing that one system, you either get the electrification rebate program or that standard program. There's no double dipping, okay? Electrification incentives are available when replacing or downgrading an existing fossil fuel heating source. There is a limit of 2. I'm going to repeat that again. There is a limit of 2 electrification rebates if the customer is removing 2 fossil fuel heating systems. When retaining a fossil fuel heating system as a backup heating source and adding a new heat pump, both of the systems must be tied to the same thermostat. I'm going to repeat that because that's important. When retaining a fossil fuel system as a backup heating source and you're adding a new heat pump, both systems must be tied to the same thermostat. In addition to that, the thermostat must be set at no greater than 40 degrees Fahrenheit for the backup fuel heating source. Okay. Now, the program is also offering make-ready enablement incentives to help the customers defray the costs that are associated with these electrification projects. As I stated earlier, if you are familiar with the standard process, the type of equipment is the same. You have your tier 1, your tier 2s, your air source heat pumps, you have your geothermal type of equipment. All of those are the same. The incentive amounts for the equipment is different. Now, I want to make sure I make this announcement here. The incentive amount that will be paid for this equipment is the same across all utilities: BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva, Maryland residential customers. Again, the incentive equipment amount is the same across all of the utilities: BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva. Okay. Please mute if you haven't already. Your Make Ready enablement incentives. Again, for projects installed on or after April 1st, 2025, BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva are offering Make Ready enablement incentives for customers to help defray the cost of some of these electrification projects. Now, these are just some of the examples of the Make Ready enablements that are available. You have your branch circuitry, you have manual J, you have your distribution reconfiguration, you have your orphan combustion safety equipment, electric panel upgrade, and your circuit sharing solutions. Now, the Make Ready enablement incentive will be paid at a total of 75% of the total Make Ready measure cost, not to exceed $3,000. Again, 75% of that total Make Ready measure cost, which is not to exceed $3,000. This is important. I really think everything that I'm saying is important, but this is important as well. Make Ready enablement incentives are limited to one per premise per program cycle at that 75% Make Ready cost. Again, not to exceed $3,000. One per premise per program cycle at 75% of that Make Ready cost, not to exceed $3,000. Also, the Make Ready incentive will be paid directly to the contractor via a check. The check should arrive within 6 to 8 weeks of the application submission. So once you submit your application, within 6 to 8 weeks, you should receive this Make Ready check. Now let's discuss your contractor bonus. A contractor that completes an electrification project is eligible for a $500 bonus. The contractor bonus will be paid, again, directly to the contractor via a rebate check. Now, as I just stated in the previous slide, any Make Ready enablement incentives that are eligible will be included on that same rebate check. So you'll get your contractor bonus and that Make Ready incentive on that same rebate check. The contractor bonus will automatically be applied to these electrification projects upon final review and approval. So it'll be applied upon final review and approval. Now, if multiple projects are included on the same invoice, then any payments associated with all of those projects will be combined into one check, right? The checks will include all the projects numbers in that single check. So if you got projects 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll include project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, and you'll get paid in that one check. The contractor bonus, now this is super important. The contractor bonus is limited to one bonus per project, per premise, per calendar year. One bonus per project, per premise, per calendar year. Calendar years, January 1st through December 31st. Now, contractors that are installing multiple pieces of equipment are eligible for one bonus, not two, just one, is one per premise. Let's walk through some common electrification scenarios. These are by no means all of the scenarios, but these are some common ones that have come up, and let's walk you through this. And you may see some familiar scenarios with what you are facing in the field, so I just wanted to walk through those as well. So let's walk through this one. Scenario number 1. A customer is replacing fossil fuel system with a high efficiency heat pump. The home already has the necessary 240 volt circuit and ample panel capacity, which is 200 amps. So the details: Their existing equipment is an oil furnace and central air conditioner. They already have that existing 240 volt. They have ample panel capacity. What are we installing here? We're going to install a tier 1 ducted air source heat pump. The cost of this equipment is $9,000, right? For this particular scenario, there is no make ready enablement incentive because you didn't have to do anything to get this home ready for this equipment. So what does that mean? There will be a $4,000 rebate paid directly to the distributor for that equipment per the standard process as we discussed. Make ready enablement, there's zero because you didn't have to do anything to get this home ready for that equipment, but you are still eligible for that contractor bonus. So the amount that will be sent to you directly via a check is $500 to the contractor. 4,000 will go to the distributor because that is a tier 1 piece of equipment. Scenario number 2, existing equipment is the same. Installed equipment is the same at a cost of $9,000. But here, because the home needs that 240 circuit board, but it already has that 200 amp. So what are we going to do to this home to make it ready for this piece of equipment? We're going to add in a 240 volt circuit. The cost of that is right around $1,500. So as we stated, the equipment cost is $4,000. So that $4,000 equipment check rebate will be sent directly to the distributor per the standard process. Now, for your make ready incentive bonus, 75% of $1,500 is $1,125. 75% of $1,500 is $1,125. You're still eligible for your $500 contractor bonus. So the total amount that will be sent directly to the contractor is $1,625. Let's walk through scenario number 3. A customer is replacing 2 systems, 1 existing natural gas system and 1 standard heat pump for a high efficiency heat pump. All right. So what do they have? What is their existing equipment? Gas furnace, and the second existing system is a standard heat pump. So what are they installing? They're replacing or downgrading the natural gas furnace with a tier 1 heat pump system. And they're also adding another tier 1 heat pump system. The make ready enablement that they had to perform was new control wiring to replace or downgrade of that furnace with the heat pump system, which was right at a cost of $500. Again, rebate incentives for the equipment will be paid directly to the distributor. So we know that one of the rebates will be $4,000, but the other remaining incentive that will be paid to the distributor varies amongst the utilities, whether it's BGE, Pepco, or Delmarva. You have to check with those, right? So there's an electrification, and then there's a standard equipment rebate here. Now, the incentives that are passed to the contractor is $375. What is that? 75% of that $500 make ready enablement amount is $375. The contractor still gets that $500 bonus. So the total amount to be paid directly to the contractor is $875. Scenario number 4. The customer is replacing that oil furnace central air conditioner with a geothermal heat pump. The home needs the new 240 circuit, and there's also insufficient panel capacity. So this is necessitating an upgrade to their main electric panel and utility service amperage, right? So the existing equipment is an oil furnace air conditioner. The equipment that they're installing is a geothermal heat pump. The cost of that piece of equipment is $32,000. The make ready enablement that they have to do for this home is branch circuitry, manual J, excuse me, and a panel service upgrade. The total cost is $6,500. Once again, for this geothermal, this equipment rebate amount is $8,000. That will be paid directly to the distributor. Now, the incentives that will be passed through to the contractor will be $3,000. Why? Because 75% of $6,500 exceeds that $3,000. If I did my math correctly, 75% of that $6,500 is $4,875. Okay, so That will be $3,000 that's passed through to the contractor plus $500. So that is a total amount in a single check of $3,500 that will be paid directly to the contractor. Let's walk through the online intake tool. Again, most of you should be familiar with this tool if you've already been submitting some of the standard applications. So this is our interim process, because it's like a two-step process until we have our online tool up and ready to accept all of the electrification projects. So the first part of this process, you're going to submit your equipment application through the online intake portal per your standard process. So like I said, if you're familiar with this, you know how you go in and you just submit your applications, whether you're in the BGE, PEPCO, or the Delmarva online intake form, okay? Once you submit that application, or while you're in that process of submitting your application, please make note of your project ID. This is going to be very important and very useful, or you're going to need it basically, not just useful. You will need it in step 2. Now in step 2, you're going to submit your application through the online portal per normal in step 1. Now in step 2, there's an email. You will mail your email to marylandmidstream@icf.com. Now in your subject line, you're going to state which utility you're submitting this for, whether it's BGE, PEPCO, or Delmarva. You need that reference ID for that project number. Remember, I said write that down. You're going to need that. We're going to need your company's name. We're also going to need to know what type of project was this. Was this was this equipment only, or was this make ready plus equipment? Now here's an example of what your subject line could look like. This is a BGE electrification project. Your reference ID is that ID number you wrote down. The company's name is Smith HVAC, and you only did equipment upgrade here. There was no make ready enablement. So that goes in your subject line. Now, the following information is required also when you submit this email. What we're going to need is your pay information. So that will include your company's name, the point of contact, if there's an attention to a certain person, if that's applicable. We need your company's address and your contact email information. Again, your company name, point of contact, company address, contact email information. Let's go through the required documentation. So for the units that you're going to install, we're going to need a total of 2 pictures per unit, basically. So we're going to need a picture of that existing unit pre-install. So wherever it is, let's take a picture of it. We're also going to need a picture of the serial number of that unit. We're going to need a picture of the new system post-install, showing that it's installed. And we're also going to need a picture of that serial number. Okay. Now, the next part of the required documentation, the contractor invoice. And I've had a lot of questions around this invoice, so let me walk through this a little slower. So the invoice must be itemized for all equipment installed. So if you install 4 pieces of equipment, we need to see that itemized and broken down, and the make work ready enablement work. So if you did a manual J, panel upgrade, we need all that listed out, right? Now, the invoice must include an instant discount to the customer and must be deducted. This must be deducted at the time of purchase. And the invoice must include that line item that shows Empower Maryland program discount for that piece of equipment installed. So if you install a geothermal piece of equipment, I think the rebate for the equipment, I'm trying to memorize it, is $8,000. You need to show that instant rebate going to that customer. You also need to show that program discount for that make ready incentive. If it's $3,000, we need to see a line for that. Now, also, if this is applicable to your project, we need to see that proof of retaining backup, that fuel backup. What is that, Patrice? We need a photo of the thermostat setting confirming that it is a dual fuel setup. We also need a photo of the thermostat balance point setting that is no greater than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I said that earlier. Now, once you submit this email, The program team will confirm receipt of your supplemental application documentation. So that's supplemental information that you're sending in this email. They'll reach out if they have any questions directly to review your project. So maybe you may be missing a picture, maybe you didn't itemize your invoice, we're missing something, whatever the question may be, they'll reach out to you, okay? So I encourage you to include as much information as possible and all of the required documentation that we're asking for. Now, the final application processing will result in all the incentives being applied and paid out upon completion of the full project review, including the original equipment, plus the additional electrification and make-ready initiatives and your contractor bonus. And just so you know, some of these projects will be subject to a quality or QA/QC check. Now let's go through some of these frequently asked questions. By no means are these all of the questions. These are some of the frequently asked questions. Question number 1. I received the standard equipment incentive for my application, but this should have been an electrification project. How can I have this corrected? Well, what you should do is reach out to the program team immediately at marylandmidstream@icf.com. Include the details of your project so we can make an assessment whether or not this should be an electrification rebate or whether it falls under the standard rebate program. Next question. How many electrification incentives can be captured per premise? Again, as I stated too early on, is up to 2 electrification incentives are available when replacing or downgrading up to 2 existing fossil fuel heating sources. Do I need to provide the instant discount to the customer at the time of purchase, which is similar to what the standard program requires? Yes. Again, do I need to provide the instant discount to the customer at the time of purchase, which is similar to the standard midstream program? The answer is yes. All incentives must be shown as an instant discount to the customer and must be deducted from that customer's invoice at the time of purchase. And please make sure to include the attribution to the utility for Empower Maryland, whether it is BGE, Pepco, or Delmarva when you're saying the Empower Maryland rebate. Now, what I want to show you here, because I talked about it early on when I said the electrification equipment payout, rebate is the same across all utilities. That is true, but for the standard, it still remains the same. So let me just put this up on the screen. So if you see like the BGE, Pepco, and Delmarva for electrification equipment incentive, the amounts are the same per utility. Now, when we go back to the standard midstream incentive, those are still uniquely different. And don't worry about copying all these down. If you join late, I did state that once this training session is over, maybe not today, but maybe first of next week, I will be sending out this deck to everyone. Again, my name is Patrice Lee. I am your account manager alongside of my colleagues, Daki Venatulis and Kyle Reinhardt. Program manager is Jordan Spiegel, and our program support is Reese Marcel. There are a plethora of other people that work on this program as well. I can't name them all, but they are all here to help you through this process. Let me stop sharing my screen. And let's open it up for questions. I'm going to go to the chat. Let me make sure there's no one that has their hand raised here. And if you do have a question, you can raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you, but I'm going to go to the chat first and start there, and then I'll come back. Okay. Sorry, don't have my glasses on, but I'm going to read through this. Someone said picture of just a condenser. Tim, I'm not sure what you're asking. If you're referring to the pictures, we're asking for a picture of the equipment, the old equipment pre-installed with the serial number. So that will be 2 pictures. And then we'll need a picture of that equipment post-install which is when it's installed, we need to see a picture of that plus the serial number. If you're speaking of the thermostat, we need to see the thermostat that shows that dual fuel setting. Plus, we need to see whether the thermostat is set at no greater than 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if that was your question. I hope it answers your question. I see you, Ethan, and also.
I think he's talking about the outdoor unit itself. It's the picture that you're requiring of the post install and the previous picture of like the current unit that's there. Hey, do you guys just need the condenser, or do you need the outdoor unit and the indoor unit? I think that's kind of what the question's pertaining.
Okay, so I'm trying to walk through this in my head here. If you're taking pictures of the equipment pre-install, which are you removing both pieces of equipment? You have to remove both of those pieces of equipment, right? Whatever
That's
you're
correct.
removing. Yeah. So like I said, include as much information as possible. I don't think snapping one additional pictures would hurt this process, right? But we need to see a picture at least pre-install, right? So whether it's inside or outdoor, at least one of those pictures, and show where you install a new piece of equipment. That is the minimum requirements. But if you wanted to do outdoor and indoor, so maybe 2 pictures there plus the additional picture of the serial number. I hope that answers your question. Azra, you can come off mute and ask your question, please.
Hi, I just have a quick question.
Hello.
So you said any equipment installed after April 1st can be eligible for this new electrification program rebate. How does that affect the equipment we already installed to this date, this month, basically? Because some of the equipment has already gone through the standard rebate. And if they are eligible for the electrification program rebate, do we need to send the email like you said in the instructions?
So if you're saying like you install the equipment on or after April 1st, because today's April 25th, right? But you're saying, oh, I didn't realize, because we sent out an email. I think we sent the email out April 1st, and we kind of gave you some background information saying the program is live. You should be following this. And I think we gave some details there. But you're saying now you're just realizing that some of the equipment that you've already installed does meet the requirements for electrification. How can you've already submitted your app? Have you already submitted your application?
Yes.
Through the portal. So you submitted a standard application through the portal. Now the question is, I'm assuming if you just submitted, you probably haven't been paid yet. I can check on that for you because I'm not sure, but I did state if you submitted it and you realize that it does fall within electrification parameters, contact us immediately. Now, I don't know exactly how much time can elapse between the time you submit your application to now. So if you submit your application on April 2nd, it may be too late to go and grab it on April 25th or 26th. But if you submitted your application, say, for instance, I'm just speculating here, so don't hold me to this, but if you submitted your application on April 20th and it's the 25th, because it's, less than like maybe 5 business days, we may be able to go and pull it, but I'm not sure. But I'll take that question down and make sure I find out and get back to you. Okay?
Okay, perfect.
Ethan. Good morning. Right. So, like, are you familiar with the standard process? Right, it's the same process. So we send that rebate check to the distributor, and however they disseminate their checks, whether it is through a check, whether it's through a credit, every distributor is different. But I would check with that distributor to see how that process works with them. You're welcome. Any more questions? I'm going to go back to the chat. Okay, Jonathan, go ahead, and then I'm going to read the chat.
So the one on the chat that I was wondering about, as well as another question I have, is what if the serial number is faded on the old equipment? Does that affect the rebate process?
No, what we need to see a picture of the equipment pre-install, right? So that's one of the requirements. And we know that some of this equipment is very old, but take the best picture that you can. Okay.
Then my other question is, when it comes to say we have a customer that has gas in the home, right? But they have no like central air or anything like that. If they were to put in like a mini split, I saw on the one slide that was one of the tiers was a ductless system. Does that qualify for an electrification project at that point?
I'm not sure. It depends on, you said the mini split system. And I think if they're doing it, and I don't want to misspeak here, but if it's connected to that one thermostat, is that what you're saying? Is going to be connected to that one main thermostat?
Yeah, it would have its own thermostat at that point. But say, for instance, they only had heat in the home right now, and we were able to make it to where it connected to that one thermostat, and the mini split was their source of, and it's essentially a heat pump, is their source of AC and primary heat at that point. That would qualify for the the electrification project.
I think it would, but don't quote me on that. But I'll take your question now. But what you're describing, I think it should.
Okay.
As long as there's that one thermostat set to no greater, because basically you're saying you're using it as the heat as a backup. Okay. Ethan, were you about to say something? Right. Okay. Okay. So Brian asked, for the standard rebate heat pump hybrid water heaters, are not on the drop down menu anymore. I'm not sure. Are you saying that are you looking for the heat pump water heaters? Because that's not part of the electrification program. It's heat pumps, not heat pump water heaters. Is that what you were asking, Brian? Thumbs up, thumbs
Sorry
out.
about that. I couldn't figure out how to unmute. No, so I mean, this isn't necessarily this project. I know that I had my supplier send an email for a question. We're trying to get the heat pump water heater, and this again, this might not be something that you can answer, but we're trying to get the rebate for a heat pump water heater, and it's no longer on the menu to select to get the, I think it's a $1,600 rebate that was previously offered straight to the suppliers, but now we have to go through BG&E.
I'm not, okay, I know what so you're talking, because that's a different program, because this is strictly about HVAC. But do me a favor, Brian, can you send me an email and I can answer that, get that question answered for you, and kind of do some background research, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For the standard rebate heat pump, so that was you, Brian. I'm sorry, I was about to read it again. Picture of inside outside equipment or just the outside. I think, Tim, we answered that one. And I think that's all I have in the chat for now. Are there any other questions? Does anybody want to come off mute and ask any other questions? Yes? No? Again, I heard a couple of you joining the meeting later. If you join and you didn't hear me say